Hello. Greetings, LightItUp TV family. This is your host, Cheryl, and we are here for another episode of Talk About It Tuesday. So, listen, we want you to go ahead and start sharing it out. We normally give everyone about 3 to 4 minutes to for streaming to go out on and let you so that you all can share, okay, and let everyone know that we are live. Tonight we are talking about a very special topic, and that is sickle cell awareness. And I have definitely been enlightened over the past few days from talking to our guests. So listen, share. This is going to be a great podcast tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are joining me, say hello. Say hello to me. Those that are joining, we just want to remind you that of our mission of LightItUp TV, and that's to give children a voice, and so they can use their voices to impact their schools, their communities, and their families. And our Talk About It Tuesday episode, that's a part of LightItUp Kids TV, and that is to give parents a platform where we can talk about different challenges, issues, topics surrounding our kindergarten through fifth grade elementary age children. So tonight's topic is sickle cell awareness and Charity, and how it affects our individuals, but most importantly, how it affects our kindergarten through fifth grade elementary age children. So I'm so looking forward to this topic. So thank you for joining me, Charity. Thank you so much. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are here, go ahead, subscribe, share with someone else to subscribe. It lets YouTube know that you are interested and that you like the content that we are producing. So thank you so much. Oh yes, if you have any questions for our host, go ahead and drop them in the comment section, because they'll be able to ask questions. They'll answer any questions I had, and I probably still have some questions this topic, but I was so enlightened. So if you're like me and maybe didn't know a lot about it and you are still learning about this topic, go ahead, ask questions, ask your questions. That's why they are here, to bring awareness. They're here to bring awareness to the topic of sickle cell. Okay, so yes, if you're just joining me, tonight's episode, Talk About It Tuesday, is on sickle cell awareness. Say hello to me if you are just joining. Say hello. Thank you to our YouTube village. Thank you to our YouTube village for joining. All right, we'll give everybody about 1 more minute. All right. And listen, on next Friday, it will be another episode of Find Your Voice Fridays. A new episode will be coming out with our kids on September the 27th, Friday, September the 27th at 7 p.m. So get your kids and let them listen to Find Your Voice Friday. It's going to be good. Our children are learning to use their voices to share their ideas and their thoughts about different things. So we're just getting warmed up. We're not jumping all the way into all of our deep topics as of yet, but we're getting warmed up so that they can get used to actually the podcast format. So support them, support our children. All right. Let your kids, kindergarten through fifth grade, let them watch also and support. You never know, they might be inspired. All right. Well, if you are joining, say hello to me. Say hello to me if you are joining us. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for those that are joining. Thank you. I know that you could have been doing anything, but we are so glad that you are here with us tonight for tonight's episode of Talk About It Tuesday. So as I said before, thank you so much, everyone. Say hello to me if you're joining. But tonight's topic is one that I have learned quite a lot about, And tonight I'm going to learn some more. In the last few days, I've learned so much, and I want to make sure that everyone, as many people as possible, can get an opportunity to get more information about this topic. So if you are on, share with someone, even if you watch this afterwards, share this video out with someone so that we can bring awareness to sickle cell. We have two wonderful, beautiful ladies that are joining us on tonight, and they are Visha Jamison and Kiosha Garrett. Yes. Welcome to our podcast of Talk About It Tuesday. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. I've had the opportunity to speak with you both within the past few days, and man, I know that this is going to be great because I still have more information, more questions, right? Visha, I have known you, oh my goodness, for a long time. I think it's been over 10 years. I've known you for a long time. And then when I messaged you and I said, "Do you remember me?" And you was like, "Of course I remember you." Yes. And I always, and Kiosha, I always pray next to the Lord, who does he want to have on? That is the thing, because I don't want to be up here just doing anything, right? If the Holy Spirit does not lead on what topic he wants me to talk about, we'll keep playing replays, okay? Because it is God ordained, Holy Spirit inspired. And so, Kiosha, I found you actually just typed in sickle cell when I felt the leading of the Holy Spirit and saw how he orchestrated, because it was supposed to be something else, another topic. And then when I felt that leading towards sickle cell, I was like, who am I going to have on? And all I did was type in sickle cell. I saw the abundance of information that you had posted, and I just reached out to you. And you were like, I said, well, Lord, if you want, somebody will reach back out if this is what you want us to talk about. And you two did. So thank you all so much. I want to first give you all an opportunity to let our audience know a little bit about you, who you are, and also, I guess your experience briefly before we get into the major details, your personal experience with sickle cell. So just tell us in a nutshell, because I have some other questions coming, but tell us, your name, what is it that you do? How are you involved with it? And, a little bit about your personal experience. It doesn't matter. Kiosha, you want to go first?
We should go first.
Okay, Lisa, you've been the mic's
Yes. So it is funny because you and I have known each other, and then you telling the story of how you reached out. It's like Kiosha and I have shared platforms. So there's nobody else that I would rather share the platform with than my little sister, is what I call her. But I am Visha Jamison, and I serve as the Sickle Cell Account Manager for the state of South Carolina with the American Red Cross. But I'm also a mother of a sickle cell warrior, and I have been an advocate and working in the sickle cell arena for the past 14 years.
Wow. 14 years. Awesome. And so tell me what is that role that you are the sickle cell manager? Is that correct?
Correct.
Of this is the South Carolina Red Cross?
South Carolina Red Cross, yes.
Awesome. All right, Kiosha, mic toss.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiosha Garrett. I am out of McClellanville, South Carolina. I am the president of Shanavia's Dream Sickle Cell Clinic, which I started. My sister, she passed away from sickle cell, which Visha gave me the thought to turn my pain into purpose. And I took it and I ran with it. And like I said, she's been by my side since day one. And there's no other person that I'd rather have on here today than my big sister. She is, I'm telling you, a ball of information when it comes to sickle cell. When I tell you, y'all are here. So thank you all for having me.
Yes, thank you all so much. And I see that I know that you have your baby there. So listen, if you have to do that while we are, It's fine. It's fine because this is real life here that we have going on. Okay. This is real life
She's
parents.
sleeping now. She's sleeping
Yes.
now. She should be good to go.
Awesome.
Thank you so
All right.
much for that, though. I feel really
Yes.
welcome.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. So if you are just joining us, say hello to us. Say hello. Say hello. Let us know who you are. If you have any questions for our guests as we are going to jump in, please go ahead and ask your questions. Drop them in the comment section. All right. So the first thing I want to say is I'm going to try not to get too emotional, okay? Is that I when when the Holy Spirit gave this topic, I was so disappointed that I did not know a lot about it. I asked a few people about it and they were able to tell me very, very little, right? And when I spoke with you all, I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not know about this? How did I not know about this? And so I'm going to ask if there's anyone else that maybe like myself that maybe heard of it. Because I've heard of sickle cell and I had a classmate that I knew whenever I was in high school that she had sickle cell, but I never knew what it was, how it was actually how she actually got it, and also what all did it entail, how it affected her being my classmate. So who wants to go first? Tell us, what is sickle cell, give us some information about it, and how does a person end up with sickle cell? Done. Whoever wants to go first. Visha, look, she's like,
I'm muted. I'm sorry.
that's
I'll
okay.
let Visha.
Okay, Visha, go ahead.
All right. Sounds good. So, sickle cell is a disease of a disorder of the red blood cells. And so, if we can picture, Cheryl, I'm visual, right? So, we've got
Yes.
normal red blood cells that are nice, round, they're soft, bendable, and flexible, and they flow easily through the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
Patients with sickle cell disease, they actually make distorted red blood cells that are shaped like a sickle, the farming tool, or for our K through 5, a crescent moon or a banana. Okay, they're shaped in kind of like a C, and they're hard, rigid, and sticky. And so they tend to clump together. They don't flow as easily through the bloodstream. And what happens is a lot of times when those cells clump together, they can get trapped, and it cuts off appropriate amount of blood and oxygen to other parts of the body, to include other organs and tissues. And so if you can imagine that clumping can happen anywhere throughout the body where blood flows. And as we all know, blood flows everywhere throughout the body,
entire
right?
body. Yeah.
In the entire body. And those entrapments can cause excruciating pain crises. And as we all know, the hallmark of this disease is pain. A lot of times when you ask people what do they know about sickle cell, it's people experience pain, they're missing from activities, or they have to be hospitalized a lot. Some of those are the main things that they know about it, and that's due to the science behind it. It's genetically inherited. It's not something that can be caught, right? I always say you don't touch someone and get sickle cell, or it's not like COVID. If I sneeze on you, you sneeze on me, that kind of thing. But it's genetically inherited and passed on from two parents who have sickle cell trait. And there's a 25% chance with each individual pregnancy that a child can be born with sickle cell if both of those parents have the trait.
Okay, so let me stop you right. So what if two parents have the sickle cell trait? What was that you said? There's a 25% chance that the child
Correct.
may have it.
will have it with each pregnancy. So
With
I
each
have to
pregnancy.
I have to
Okay.
emphasize that
Uh-huh.
because people think sometimes if, okay, my first child was born with sickle cell, that means that if I have three more, then, I won't have any more children with sickle cell. No, that chance actually exists with each individual pregnancy. So I've
Okay.
come across a number of families who have multiple children with sickle cell disease, just in how those cells or those
How the
traits line
cells
up,
transfer. Yeah,
basically.
how they transfer.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so the difference between the trait and, are we calling it, is it a disorder or disease? What is sickle cell? Is it, it's a disorder? Is that the correct?
Disorder, disease. We say
Okay.
sickle cell anemia or sickle
Mm-hmm.
cell disease.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there is a huge difference between the two. So when you look at sickle cell trait, those individuals who are carriers make a very small percentage of those distorted red blood cells, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when I say very small, the percentage is very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
But they can still produce sickle cells, those distorted cells, at a different rate as well. So sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
look at, we always caution people who have trait to take certain precautions as well, because your body is still making a percentage of those distorted red blood cells, which can
Mm-hmm.
have an effect as well. People who have sickle cell disease, they make a vast number of those cells. And so you
Mm-hmm.
have those cells in the body that are at a higher percentage, which
Mm-hmm.
equates to sickle cell disease.
Got you. Okay. If you all have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment section. If you're just joining us, tonight's topic is on sickle cell awareness. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. This is, and say hello to us if you are just joining us. We have Visha Jameson and we have Kiosha Garrett that are bringing awareness to sickle cell. Uh, since September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. And so we are bringing awareness to this disorder. And so, Kiosha, when was it? What is your, I noticed you said that your sister
Yes.
passed. Now, did you develop sickle cell as well, or is it just your sister? Tell us a little bit about that.
So, being that my mom knew from a child that she had the trait because my grandfather was a carrier.
Mm-hmm.
However, my biological father did not have the trait or anything, and I didn't get it from my mom. But my mom got remarried. Well, my mom got married when I was about 6 years old, 6, 7 years old. My mom got married,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a child, which was my sister, Shanavia. Like I said, my mom knew she had the trait all her life. However, she was very cautious,
Mm-hmm.
as to who she, had a child with, because she knew that there was a chance that that child would end up with sickle cell. So
Mm-hmm.
when they got married, my dad, she asked him, well, my stepdad, she asked him if he had sickle cell trait or anything like that. And he was like, no, he didn't have it or anything like that. So that was the green light. They got married. And my mom, she
So
told me
let
she
me
had
stop.
about
Let me
two.
stop. Let me stop you right there. So is that something that somebody would want to know? I see Charity has a question.
Yes.
Is that something that, I guess, someone with a trait would want to know to make sure? Is that like a question that is like, this is a question you need to
Yes.
ask someone that you are considering marrying?
Yes,
Yes.
and the I was just about to say at my gala last year, she made an awesome point. She always says, "Know your status." It's like a HIV status or something like that. You need to know your status, and
So
she
what does that
drills that
mean? What
into
does that
me, and
mean
I
when you say know your status? What does that mean?
You need to know whether you have sickle cell trait. And that I always say on a lab report, right? We always or oftentimes take the word of our beloved moms, dads, big mama, when they say, oh, that doesn't run in our family. Or a lot of times, if there's something we need to know, we rely on them. We'll go to mom, do you know if I have trait? Because, it's our mom. She had us, she would know. Or, grandma, do you know whether this? And they'll say, oh, no, that doesn't run in our family. I always tell people, make sure you see that on a lab result. Okay. Because technology was not then what it is now. And there may have been some questions. It may be something that the doctor or pediatrician may have just grazed across when you were born, and your mom may have never known whether that's something that you were born with. So we want to see that on a lab test. It's a simple finger prick for anybody who wants to have it done. And it's also something that may possibly be in your birth records, or for those who are having babies now, it is actually done during the newborn screening process.
Okay, so that Charity, that answers your question. She said, how do people usually find out that they have it? And you're saying that there's a screening that is done now across the board. Is that across the U.S.?
It's across the U.S., but it wasn't basically mandatory in all 50 states until 2006. So for the young ones like me who may have been born before that time, it's possible that in your state, those tests may or may not have been being done. And so I would say if you've never seen a test, you've never had a test, you want to verify that. But if you are having babies now, in this time frame, then it is a standard for them to do a newborn screening test. And that's for when I say newborn screening, if you're a mom that's just had a baby in the hospitals, that's when they come and get the baby. They test the hearing, their heart conditions, vision, all of these things. And they do a little heel prick, and that blood panel includes sickle cell as well. So they do that screening now, but anybody who is a little seasoned, you may want to verify that as well.
So how would well, I'm not having any more kids, but for my, I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of any type of sickle cell test, any type of sickle cell screening or anything. Right.
And I'm going to piggyback off of what Visha just said, as far as testing. So I just partnered with this organization called North Central Family Medicine, and they told me that they could do it with saliva now. So people was like, oh, I don't want to get finger prick or anything like that. And it makes it easier to be done, because usually when they do trait testing at like some of our events and they use the finger prick, they have to have a provider there. But with the saliva, the mouth swab, you don't have to have a provider there on standby while testing is being done. So that's just something that I just learned within the past few weeks, because things are always changing. Things are always changing. And I'm glad that they, are able to test with saliva now, because so many people, especially us of the African American community, are afraid of needles, afraid of sticks, and so when I heard that, when I found that out, I was like, oh, like that's amazing that they can test from the saliva now.
So that sort of eliminates the excuse of people that are maybe have that fear of the needle. Okay, so is that anybody, like you were saying, the more seasoned ones of us, anyone can go and get tested with saliva, or if they want a blood, how accurate is the saliva? Just as accurate as getting your finger pricked or something?
So yes, ma'am. When I spoke to, his name is Mr. Dale. They said that they've done it. They technically, what they do, they go out to different colleges in South Carolina to do testing, and they also offer sports physical at a discounted rate so that they can, get the word out and, get these tests going, because there's a lot of people they've identified that their parents never let them know that they had the trait, and you have to have a physical, done before you do sports. And like they were saying, in the college world, that's where, a lot of it goes down. And, they just want to let people know so that we can, kind of start decreasing the reproduction rates of, two trait positive parents, for that percentage. Like he said, it's not going to be every child, but like Bisha said, 25% with each pregnancy.
So if someone had the trait and they met someone that had the trait, is that like a complete like we would not want to get together?
I usually say, you can't control who you fall in love with, right?
Right.
And that's why we want to ask these questions out the gate. Some people feel like it is a deal breaker for them, especially since those of us who live it, we know what those effects look like, right? So for me, that would kind of be a make or break thing for me. And that would be one of the things that I would want to know very early on. I'm like you, Miss Cheryl, I won't have no more children. But
right.
if that were the case, that would be something I would want to know early on. And here's what I say. I wouldn't necessarily say allow that to deter you, but at the same time, you want to be knowledgeable going in, proactive versus reactive.
I like
because
that.
as Keosha said, things are changing every single day. There's so much advancements in technology that, there may be a possibility to where, two people with the trait, we have all these IVF treatments and things like that. We might be able to talk to a doctor to see how we could align things to where we have a child that does not have sickle cell disease. At the same time, that possibility exists. This also allows you and your partner to determine what life may look like for you if that child is born with sickle cell disease versus having to react on the back end and play catch up. Yes, so I would say, these are definitely questions you want to ask. As Keosha said, this is just as important as your other statuses.
Yeah. This is good because that's what you were going to say, Keosha, about your mom. She got remarried, and from my understanding, what you shared is that she did not know that he had.
So she knew she had it. She asked my stepdad if he had it. And he said no. After my sister was born, like Visha said, they didn't start doing correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't include the sickle cell trait testing, or it wasn't required in every state until what you said 2006. So my sister was born in 2000. So her fetal blood card came back abnormal, but they just didn't know exactly for which abnormal disease or whatnot. So time went on. When my sister got 3 months, she had her first pain crises in her arm, and my mom thought maybe she fell or she broke it or something, and they took her to the emergency room and they did blood work and everything, and that's when they found out that she was sickle cell positive, that she had she definitely had sickle cell.
And what was that triggering? What was the thing that got them to go and get the test? Because of what?
So being that my mom already knew that she was that she had the sickle cell trait, they automatically went to test for it. And when the test came back saying that my sister definitely has sickle cell, it kind of stirred up a little uproar. And my mom, she used to always tell me this story. She was like, well, I know I had it. This your baby, this, that, and the third. So they kind of got to the bottom of it. And then he called his mom. He was like, Mom, do I have the trait? And she said, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you.
Wow.
At 20-something years old, my dad found out that he had the sickle cell trait because all these years his mom forgot to let him know that, you have the sickle cell trait. And so ever since that day, and I'm just being real, especially for the parents on here right now, ever since that day, my mom said that she always lived with the thought of one day, you just never know, maybe she never knew what could happen, but she knew before they got together that was just something she did not want to deal with. That's why she was always careful about who she, had a child with. And that's one of the main reasons why I advocate and I fight so hard, especially, I'm sorry, but that's why I advocate so hard, because I hate for anyone to have to go through what my family went through.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Thank you for sharing that personal experience. And that was when I see Charity has a question, and she said, if someone hasn't gotten screened and had a child that missed the newborn test and has the disease, how would they find out most likely? So that gets me back to the symptoms of it. Is the main thing pain? Which one of you all I spoke with and said that there was a baby that the hand was swollen, and that's how Visha, how did you find out that your child had the sickle cell?
So I was one of the ones who had the luxury of being notified through the newborn screening process from the health department. So we received a letter in the mail when my son was about 4 weeks old that showed his diagnosis. And what they did was they brought me in and did what they called a confirmation test. And then we went through like the genetic counseling and started learning, about sickle cell and what it entails. For Charity's question, those things you would it all depends, and this takes me on another whole avenue here, because someone who's missed the newborn screening test, let's just say someone who is now in their 40s, right? And may be experiencing complications. Some of those things may look like consistent pain. You've got, like Kiosha said, the swelling sometimes. Pain is going to probably be your strongest indicator. And I would say that you can ask or request for that test to be done. Some of the warriors that I have come across who learned later on in life, it was only through the advancements of technology, because like Kiosha said, her grandma said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you." So these are all things that happen, right? Or some people, like in the older days, they would tell their children, "Oh, it's just growing pains," because, medical treatments and access to medical treatment was not as prevalent in those days. Taking a trip to the doctor, you had to be almost, to death, before you could even get to a doctor or a hospital. Or, we did the home remedies, right? You got a cold, did your home remedies at home, and you were fine. You had aches and pains. They did what they needed to do at home, and that was that. But as technology advances and, we have more access to medical treatments and healthcare, then these things kind of come about. So I've come across several patients who did not discover that they actually had sickle cell disease until it was in their later years. So some in their 40s, 50s.
And they were just finding out?
Just finding out, had lived all their lives. And let me also preface this by saying every case is different, right?
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Kiosha mentioned her sister, experiencing a crisis early on. My son experienced his first crisis at around 7 months old. And so for some people...
So crisis, what does that mean? Explain that.
A pain crisis. We identify it as a crisis, but it's referred to as a pain crisis. So that's an episode where they're in excruciating pain, where those blood cells are somehow trapped and not doing what they need to do, right? And of course, pain is an indicator. Pain is like a signal to the body that something's wrong. So when those cells get trapped in the bloodstream and they're not going where they're supposed to go or delivering adequate amounts of blood and oxygen to other places, it causes complications. And so pain is really the indicator.
So if the blood is not getting to certain parts of the body, then that's where it can cause complications. with even those parts of the body that's not getting that oxygen.
Correct. That's why a lot
Wow.
of patients with sickle cell are actually at a higher risk for stroke, right? If you're not getting
Mm-hmm.
enough blood and oxygen to the brain, what happens? And
Mm-hmm.
remember, crisis can occur anywhere where blood flows throughout your body.
Yeah.
Other complications include, the breakdown of the joints,
Mm-hmm.
deterioration, just different things. If you think about you're cutting off a supply from
Yeah.
something's going
Yeah.
to go wrong. So it's
Yeah.
like, here go my visuals, right? Watering a
Mm-hmm.
garden. You have a garden, you have all these beautiful flowers that have blossomed, and all of a sudden you cut off the water supply. Well, without the water supply, what's going to
Wow.
happen?
Wow.
Something's going to be damaged.
Yeah.
And so that is what's occurring in the body when we're having the clumping of those cells. It's cutting off a supply somewhere throughout the body.
Wow.
And over time, you end up
Mm-hmm.
with damage to other organs and tissues in the body.
Wow. That is a great analogy uh about the flower, the plant, and the
Mhm.
watering. I love your analogies. Listen, if you are just joining us, we are here, another episode of Talk About It Tuesday, and tonight's topic is sickle cell awareness. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in. Say hello to us. Also, share this video out. Even if you're watching this afterwards, share this video out so that we can bring awareness to as many people as possible. Parents, I wanted to know, please share if you or someone you knew has sickle cell and the effects as a child. Like if you had it as a child or someone you know has had it as a child, what were the effects of them as a child, the effects of sickle cell on them as a child? Now, this is a tough question and this is one of the things that really concerned me whenever I was reading. I see Christina said that's so true. Our community is too used to ignoring physical pain, right? And this is there's growing pain. Is just because that was I was going to ask, like someone go 40 something years and just finding out that they have this disease,
Correct.
like yeah, this disorder.
Mhm. And as
Um,
a culture, they say that we're conditioned in our Black communities to handle pain better. We have a
yeah,
higher tolerance for pain.
yes, and we
All
know
of
why
these
that
things and these
is. Right.
stigmas and stereotypes. And so that,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
So that leads me to my question: why is it an African American thing? Why is mostly African American that this disorder affects? That was when I saw that, I began like, I need to know. I need to research this a little bit more. And I still have to do that. But that really sparked something in my mind and the question of why is it mostly
Mhm.
an African American disorder?
Great question. And so I love the fact that you said mostly, right? Because
Uh-huh.
we come across people all the time who said, oh, that's only a Black thing, or
Uh-huh.
that's
Uh-huh.
only something that you all's community have to worry about, right?
Uh-huh.
But I
Uh-huh.
love that you said mostly because it is predominantly predominantly affects African Americans here in the United States, but not exclusively. So
Mm-hmm.
I often say sickle cell disease is not a disease of race or ethnicity, but a disease of geography. And what I mean
Mm.
by that is because of the origin. So our bodies they do some really unique things, right? It's a self-healing organism. And that's
Uh-huh.
how I like to refer to it, as
Right.
self-healing, right? Because naturally our body has the ability to
To
heal
heal itself.
itself,
Yes.
right? With the proper care,
Right.
the proper adequate diet, nutrition,
Right.
all of these things, it has the ability to heal itself. And
Right.
so what happened is, as an evolutionary trait, during the times where malaria was rampant, right, in
Mm-hmm.
those countries in the Mediterranean area along that equatorial strip, you think about, where did malaria exist primarily?
In Africa, right?
In
Mm-hmm.
Africa, right? So our bodies began to form a hardened cell as a defense to malaria. That malaria
Mm-hmm.
parasite cannot live on that hardened cell. so that hardened cell, those trait carriers, right, that is known as
Mhm.
sickle cell trait,
Mhm.
of course, began to reproduce, and over time, babies with sickle cell disease were born. So, because of the origin, that is why
Mhm.
we say it predominantly affects African Americans because of the origin. But if you think about those areas, and I'll bring, I always like to talk about anybody who's done that ancestry test, like the
Uh-huh.
23andMe or the DNA. A
Mhm.
lot of times, like Kiosha said, we don't want to like talk about those kinds of things, right? It's
Right.
like we might not want to do that,
Right.
but
That is
I've
true. We're
seen
gonna we're gonna
just let that one fly, right?
Uh-huh.
But I've seen coworkers and friends who have done those tests, and they give you that little pie chart, and it carves out those little sections with those percentages, and it tells
Uh-huh.
you where your ancestry traces from. And so when we look at those, right, I often love to point that out to our other ethnicities who feel like, oh, that's a you thing and not a me thing. Because if you have
Mhm.
a Greek background or an Italian background, or any of those countries that are surrounding that, Spain, any of those areas that are in that area, you could potentially have sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease. What do we
Wow.
do as a people, right? We
Wow.
expand, we began to navigate
Right.
and
Mhm.
drop in other places in other
Right.
countries.
Right.
Think about, even the example I'll use is me for work, right? I
Mhm.
cover the state of South Carolina, so I'm not limited to just my one area of where I
Right.
live. I'm all
Mhm.
around the state. Who's to say that, I didn't meet my husband in another area of the state and have children? He has a whole different background than I do, right? Or if
Right.
I'm traveling out of the country, I may
Mhm.
have worked
Mhm.
overseas or whatever the case may be,
Uh-huh.
to
Mhm.
make the narrative just more real. As time went on, we began to reproduce. So anybody of any race, culture, or creed can absolutely have sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease. It predominantly affects African Americans because of its origin.
Okay. That is good to know because yeah, that is something when I saw that, I was like, I thank you for that explanation because I was very much curious and concerned and just wondering like how did this come about to be mostly African American. And okay, so I see our time is gone, but I want to ask a question with elementary age children because that's where our focus is, right? For elementary age children, what I guess what does that look like for elementary age child with sickle cell at home, at school? What is that? What is that like?
It's different for every child. The one thing I like to highlight and share is with a child with sickle cell, especially in that elementary age, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, they're little germ mobiles. So,
Mm, yeah,
they're
yeah.
exposed to so many other children. They pick up
Uh-huh.
everything, especially in those younger years. When a baby picks up something, where does it go? Straight
Yeah,
into their
straight to their
mouth.
mouth. Mm-hmm.
Into their mouths. Children with sickle cell are what we like to say immunocompromised, right? A simple infection could be very challenging for them. A common
Mm.
cold could land them in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Um, all of these different factors, and so when we look at elementary age children, it looks different for each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, education is the biggest component.
Okay.
Knowing about the disease and taking precautions and all of these different things is so crucial. They may experience pain crises. They may experience, it may look different for each one of them, right? You might have a
Mm-hmm.
child in your classroom who looks very lethargic. And you
Uh-huh.
may think, oh, they're just staying up late at night. That may not always
Mm-hmm.
be the case. Or in the classroom, they may not be able to focus. They may be fidgety. And you may think,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, this must be ADHD, or
Mm-hmm.
what does that resemble? And it could just be that they're in pain and they're repositioning to have some level of comfort.
Wow.
Um, it could look like them kind of isolating a little bit because they don't want to share or be around people because they're a little uncomfortable. There's a number of things that could occur in elementary school kids. Like I said, it's just we want to just be able to educate not only parents and caregivers but also educators, our school, our teachers, our administrators, faculty and staff, of what this looks like and what the requirements and accommodations need to look like for those children.
Okay.
I also want to piggyback on something really quick. So my sister, in her younger years, she had more sickle cell crises in her younger years than her later years in life. And that typically would trigger. She loved water. She said when she's in the water, she just felt free. And my dad taught her how to swim. And then she taught my kids how to swim. I don't know how to swim. But she taught them how to swim before she passed. And she just loved the water. But, her body, the way that her body took the water, especially with the drastic temperature changes and stuff like that, it caused her. The summer months, she's like, I'm gonna go in the water. I don't care. I'm gonna live my life. I'm gonna go in the water. Even if I have a pain crisis next week, I'll just deal with it. But I'm gonna have fun now, and that's just until her passing, that's just the type of person she was. She was going to live her life and deal with the consequences later. But that also brought me to Visha. You can definitely, I know time is going up, but IEP is what my sister had when she was in school. That's what it's called. Like they used to, when she was sick. So they would send her, they would assign every school year, they would assign her a tutor or homebound teacher. That's what it's called. They would hire people to come to the house and
so
teach
did
her.
She attend school, or she attend?
When she could attend school, she did. And when she couldn't attend school, that's when my mom would, contact them. And, sometimes they'll come to the hospital if she was up for it, or if she was home and just, dealing with the crisis at home, they would, come and, they got so used to coming there. Sometimes my mom even cooked dinner for them, because they were there, for a couple hours with her, not every day, but about every other day or so. So if any parents are on here, I'm praying that you do have one for your child. But if you don't, definitely get with the guidance counselor or the school or wherever you are to get one. I'm sorry, the little one's crying.
So thank you for mentioning that, Kiosha, about the IEP, because Visha, we talked about that. What is the importance of that IEP for the child that
very important
that's dealing with sickle cell in the school? Now I see Tamika said, hello, our family all have the trait, and my nephew is a sickle cell warrior. Side note, hey Visha.
Hey, Tamika.
And that thank you for sharing that, Tamika. And also, if there are any other parents or caregivers, family members, if you know somebody, what has been your biggest challenge, or have you ever had a challenge with the sickle cell warrior in school? What has been your biggest challenge for your sickle cell warrior, and especially let's look at home or at school? Let us know. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So Visha, when you're talking about school, in somebody in elementary, is there like limitations for them? Has your son dealt with like maybe anyone like picking on him, or kids just not understanding? Is it emotional? Are there limitations, things he cannot do? Sort of explain that to us. Like what did that look like for your baby? Absolutely. What does that look like in the school? Talk about the IEP. I'm trying to get as much in as possible in this.
Exactly. Absolutely. We might need a part 2.
Right.
I was just thinking that we need a part 2.
This can cover so much. So
right,
I would,
right.
encourage all moms or parents, let me say that, to have 504 IEP. You want to make sure that your child is covered all the way around. Unfortunately, because there's not enough education around sickle cell disease, it makes it kind of hard sometimes to understand, especially in our school systems, like when our children are missing school a lot. Like I said, it may look like something else in the classroom. And then when you start counting absences, it may look like, oh gosh, this child is just not coming to school. Let me figure out what's going on in the home that these parents can't get this baby to school. And then when you say sickle cell, it's like, oh, well, just a little pain, give them a little Tylenol and send them on. And it's not that simple.
It's not
And
that
so
easy.
you want to make sure it's not that easy. I mean, think about it. If we could give them Tylenol, we want to send them to school. You know what I'm saying? If it was an easy fix like that, that's what we would do and get them out the door. It also may look like, oh gosh, this child is always late coming to school. But if you had to wake up in the morning and decide, let your body decide what it was going to do for the day, then it took every ounce of fight in them to even get to school in the first place. So being 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late is an accomplishment considering what they had to go through to get there. So to back up with the IEP, you want to make sure that you definitely have that in place, because you want to make sure you have those accommodations. And it could be something as simple as extra time allotted for assignments. If they're not in school, them having extended time or extended time on standardized tests. It may also look like having provisions for them to take those standardized tests alone outside of the general classroom, or having things maybe read to them to make sure that they're sticking within a time frame. You also want to make sure that things are in place where they're able to use the restroom as often as they need to, and to be able to drink as much water as they need to, because they need to be hydrated all the time. Dehydration is a trigger for a pain crisis.
That was
So
one of the things, that questions that are there certain things that can trigger the flare-ups, the crisis?
Dehydration. Oh my goodness, dehydration. Think about taking water from a blood cell that is already not functioning as properly, right? Or functioning like it should. So you also have, with those sickle cells, they don't live as long in the bloodstream as well. A normal red blood cell lives about 120 days versus a sickle cell that lives about 10 to 20 days. So it's dying off a lot sooner. So think about, you already have a distorted blood cell that has a shorter life expectancy, and you're just going to suck all the water from it, right? And you have a lot of those in your body. So dehydration is a trigger, and you want to make sure that they're staying hydrated. So this child may need to be able to drink in classes where teachers say that there's no drinks allowed. They may need to get up and be excused to the restroom, even though restroom time is at 10:15, right? They may need to go. They need to go as often as they need to. You also want to look at things like PE, recess, during cold months and during the extremely hot months. We're in South Carolina. I mean, when kids are out at recess, normally you want to take precautions because of the heat, but especially with a child with sickle cell. During the winter months, you don't want to have those babies on the playground in 30-degree weather. Cold, extremely cold temperatures is also another trigger for a sickle cell crisis. And so all of these things need to be taken into consideration. They don't need to be pushed to the point of exertion. So when we're looking at them in PE or, just in regular playtime, we want to make sure that they're taking frequent breaks. Kiosha mentioned swimming. My baby loves the water as well. And he says the exact same thing. He doesn't feel his pain when he's in the water. But at the same time, when he's swimming, we got to make sure we're taking frequent breaks. We also have to make sure that that water is at a certain temperature, because again, that cold water, you and I could jump in a pool, and it wouldn't bother us. We'd just be like, ooh, that was a little shot, but ooh, we're okay. But somebody with sickle cell, that looks a lot differently. That could cause, she'll, like Shanavia would say, I know I'm gonna have a crisis, I know I'm gonna be in pain, but I have to have my moments of enjoyment at this time. So there are a lot of factors to be considered when you're talking about a school-age child having sickle cell, and it goes a lot deeper. Every child is different, so that's why they need that individual educational plan. Exactly.
Wow. Wow. Ooh, this is a lot. This is a lot. So we're coming close to the end, but why do you think we haven't heard a lot about this? Like even in schools, even why isn't that
because it affects
I don't hear a lot about
I know
it.
Kiesha's gonna jump right in.
because it affects the majority of African Americans. Like, and I'm just going to be honest. People are born with sickle cell. You have some diseases that get more attention. I'm sorry. You have some diseases that get more attention than sickle cell, and people are born with this disease. This is not something that you catch, and I'm like, there should definitely be more awareness around sickle cell, and that's where we step in. And I'm so glad that God gave me and he gave me the vision, and he brought everyone to me, especially like Visha, how we met. Shanavia was working from the heavens because I didn't even know that she reached out to Visha about the sickle cell walk that we attended after she passed. And then Visha gave me my interview when I was working at the American Red Cross because I draw blood. I'm a phlebotomist. So everything just came in a full circle. Everything came in a full circle. But one thing that I am one thing that I'm going to work on, and I haven't spoken to Visha about this, but North Central Family Medicine, they're located in Rock Hill. They're going to start giving classes to people, whether they be school district coaches. I even said as far as park and recs, we have like Charleston County Park and Rec, so that they would know how to go about dealing with sickle cell when they're faced with it. We have a lot of after school programs that go on and extracurricular activities. I want to network with as much people as I can, and I know we can make it happen so that we can hold a class in different areas of the state to bring awareness about sickle cell. And I really want to do that. That's something that has been on my heart to do, and I know we can definitely make it happen because the hour just isn't enough.
Listen, this is so I see enough. It truly is, because I'm just in awe that I have not heard a lot about it. That is, and I don't know, is it just me or is it I mean, I feel like I'm a master degree educator and I have not heard a lot about this disorder. And I'm just like,
it's not. I still get asked when I say sickle cell, people are like, oh, that's still around? Like people still get sickle cell? And I'm like, wow. Wow. But yes, you're not the only one. There's just not enough education and awareness surrounding this disease. And that's where we come in. That's why, being here on LightItUp TV, it just makes a world of difference. People like you who say,
and thank you for the opportunity.
This is we need to know about. Absolutely. Thank you for stepping in and filling in the gap. Like Kiosha said, there are many other diseases that get notoriety or that get attention, funding. There's information about it. And I don't like to think that is because it predominantly affects our Black and African American communities, because we know we live in a new day and a new time where diversity, equity, and inclusion is, the highlight of our worlds. And so I like to think of it as making progress. We're making progress. I'm going to say that we're making progress because, for obvious reasons. And because it is such a misunderstood disease as well.
And because it's so internal. Right?
It's so internal.
Other diseases you can see physically, right? You can see that this is going on physically, but for a kid that's 5, 6, 7, elementary age children, it's internal.
It's internal. It's invisible.
And even
you can't see it.
And we may have to have a part 2 because I also wanted to know, like, does it affect emotionally? Right.
Oh, yeah.
An emotional aspect.
Absolutely.
Mood swings. I used to tell Shanavia all the time, I'm like, why are you so moody? But it took for me to, after she passed, I did a whole lot of studying and whatnot. And granted, I would be there with her in the hospital bed and stuff like that, comforting her. But it's like, it's very, it affects them. And sometimes I just had to bite my tongue, and I was like, I understand you're going through it. I don't know the feeling of having sickle cell, but I see what she went through. So, when she gets snappy and stuff like that, it's just the pain. When it goes away, she's happy-go-lucky,
Wow.
So being understanding when you have a warrior means a whole lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
And if I can paint a picture, Cheryl, just even as adults, right? And it's hard for children because they're coming into their identity, right? They're figuring out the world. We are their examples at a certain point. But as an adult, think about how our mental health diminishes or, when things happen in life. I use the example of a heartbreak, right? You ever been through a heartbreak? You're going to listen to the sad R&B song. You're going to cry. Your life is going to look a lot differently than when you were happy, right? Or you think about even outside of that, dealing with adult problems. If you're trying to figure out how to make ends meet, if you're going through physical things within your body, think about depression, right?
Yeah.
How popular, and I hate to say that term, but how many people are dealing with depression, or what they've referred to now as a functional depression, right? You don't even know you're depressed.
Right.
But think about how that looks like, what that looks like in your mental state, and think about having a physical barrier just wreaking in your body every single day. You're living in some degree of pain every single day. It takes you out of your normalcy of, I can't go outside and play with the kids. Or if I do, I can't do what the other kids do. Or I have to be in the hospital. It brings about the why me, all of these different things that they're figuring out mentally. And it does affect you. And so I always say there's layers to this disease. You think about even as a caregiver, right? It alters your life. It not only alters that warrior's life, but the people and the family. It's a family disease. You have to figure out how to be that caregiver. A lot of warriors in their adult life have not been able to work. So it affects them financially, right? Now you've got an added stress on top of the physical pain, doctor's appointments, treatments, etc. Now you're worried about how you're going to keep the lights on. So there's layers to this, and that all affects you mentally. Like Hilda said, the mood swings, right? It's like, how do I deal with this? It's just the unknown. Like nobody understands what I'm dealing with because I'm the only one feeling it, and all of these outside factors are agitating me. So my lashing out or my sharpness or whatever, it is only coming out of frustration because of what I'm dealing with internally.
Wow. This has been so good, you all. As you all are thinking of giving some last words for right now, because it looks like we may have to have a part 2. I see Christina asked the question, where can parents find tools to help them know how to advocate for their kids? Before, go ahead and answer that. Where can parents find tools to help them know how to advocate for their advocate for
right
their
here.
Right here. We have it right here. So
we
be sure that
information.
Yes.
Because this is where it begins. We have other community-based organizations that have tons of information. If you are shy or if you're a little hesitant about reaching out to strangers, I would often tell parents, start within your child's school. You need to talk to a social worker within the school or that school counselor, psychologist, and ask them for resources. If they're unfamiliar, guess what? They have networks that they can reach out to, which looks like one of us or community-based organizations that can come in and provide that tool. I absolutely enjoy going into schools and educating the faculty and staff. And sharing the school nurses, all of these things, because it is where our babies spend the most of their time. They spend more time with the teachers at school than they do with us at home because the
Right.
weekend just isn't long enough, right? And
Right.
they have them. I used to tease Draylen's teachers like, "This is y'all baby, right? I pick them up during the
Uh-huh.
summer. Like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
he's not here during the summer. This is your baby, right?" But
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, that's where you can start. But like I said, you have organizations like us. I also have my nonprofit. It's a parent advocacy group as well, and that's one of the pillars of or the missions of that organization is to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
our babies have what they need.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the things that you do. Okay, that you all do. So, answer your question. Listen, we will get their contact information and we will put it on our website. Well, website is coming on our Facebook page, our Light It Up TV Facebook page and Instagram, so that you all can have that information. If you have been here on this evening for this topic, please share this out. Please share this out. Visha, and as you all are close, I want you to share what you share with me. First, Shanavia, and Kiosha, tell me about Shanavia and about your son, Visha. What is the longest that they've had to be out of school for a crisis? What is the longest you
So
can remember Shanavia being
I'm
out of
going to
school?
I'm going to be very transparent. So Shanavia had, like I said, she passed at the age of 21. So when she was about 17 years old, she was in the hospital for about she was out of school for I say about maybe 4 or 5 months because she had to get her port changed. So she had a port because as sickle cell warriors, their blood, their veins are very tiny. So she had to get her port changed out, and it caused her to be in a lot of pain. They had to go back in to re-access the port to shift it. That's another story for another day. So
Yeah.
after that, Shanavia decided that, she did not want to go back to normal school because she was missing out on a lot. So she actually came out of the public school and went to an, what's it called, adult school,
Mm-hmm.
because it was quick and easy and something that she could, do whenever,
Right. Right.
So I think the longest she's been out was maybe about 4 or 5 months.
And so that's where Visha, I think you were sharing, both of y'all saying where the emotional, the mental aspect with the children comes into effect. Because I remember just had me having pain, and I'm gonna wrap this up in 3 minutes. We're gonna wrap it up in 3 minutes, 110. I remember me having pain as an adult with my back, and how I just felt I was so frustrated. I was so angry because I felt like I couldn't do the things that I would normally be able to do, right? And so I just remember that feeling. So we're talking about our elementary age children. So Visha, what is the longest your son has been out of school?
So just to paint a picture, last year, Draylen missed about 92 days of school. So that was intermittently. The
Mm-hmm.
longest consecutively would probably be this school year. He's a high school freshman,
Uh-huh.
and we've been in school since August the 8th, and he's
Mm-hmm.
attended only 1 week of school.
Wow.
So
Wow.
what is that, 5 weeks, 6
Yeah.
weeks
Yeah.
He's definitely in
consecutively?
my prayers.
Yeah.
Yes. And so sickle cell is so unpredictable. So we've
Mm-hmm.
had years where he hasn't had an admission, for 3, 4 years. And then
Wow.
we've had years where he's had an admission every month for 18 months straight.
Wow.
And those
Mhm.
admissions have been a minimum of 4 days. And so, it's so unpredictable. So that's why it's super important to have that support system and all of these other tools and resources in place.
And the education is important. As we are closing, share the story that you shared when your son was out and he went back to school and the kid asked him, we're definitely gonna be praying for Dre. And the kid asked him, why have you been out? And he chose to share it. If you don't mind, do you mind sharing that story?
No, not at all.
Because
Not at
I
all.
want parents, and the reason why I'm asking you to share it is because I want parents to just have a bit of understanding of emotionally for the children and how important education it is, even from younger children on, to be aware. Just like if you mention cancer to child. Most kids that I know what I've heard of that. I've seen it. I know that right. I've seen little kids with it. But you mentioned sickle cell, and they may not know what it is. So give us that right quick, and then Kiosha, you and Visha, y'all be thinking of what y'all last words are as we're closing.
Okay, absolutely. So Draylon was out of school, and here's that mental aspect, right, where he sometimes would not open up to his peers about what was going on with him. And so this particular day, he decided that he would open up when a kid asked him why had he been gone from school for so long. And he said, well, I was in the hospital. I have sickle cell disease. And before he could, expand on that, the kid just kind of went haywire, like, oh my God, you have a disease, like, ooh, don't touch me, just kind of going on, because he didn't understand that it wasn't something that could not be caught. It was something that is inherited, that is within his body. And of course, that did a couple of things for him. Now he's isolating, once again, because you've got a child who has made him feel a certain type of way. And then now that causes him to second guess sharing and being transparent with his peers. So it's not only important for parents to be educated, to be able to create that sensitivity, within the home, but also for our educators as well. I've had to let his teachers know, okay, he's returning to school. Can we send our little, reminder to the students to welcome him back? Welcome our friend back. Don't say, oh my God, you've been out of school for so long. Or, he had a kid to say, you've been out of school for so long, you're going to fail.
Someone said that to him?
Yes, absolutely. And so when we look at those things, we want to make sure that we're creating a sensitivity. Like you said, there's more familiarity with cancer. So a lot of times kids don't have that particular reaction. And not to single any one condition out, to do that. But because that education, lacks there, sometimes it's hard to understand and to relay that information to our children.
Yeah. Thank you all so much, ladies. I hadn't even talked about the parents and how it affects the parents and how parents have to prepare. So we will definitely have to be back. Listen, if you are joining us and you're still with us, our hashtag is hashtag Sickle Cell Aware. If you can put that in our chat, hashtag Sickle Cell Aware, hashtag Sickle Cell Aware. This has been something that I'm going to be honest that I have been completely in the dark about, but not anymore. We want to get involved, and I may be frozen. We want to get involved, and can y'all still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, thank you. We want to get involved, so let us know how we can get involved in your last words, okay? Thank you all so much for joining us on Light It Up TV. I'll talk about it Tuesday episode, Sickle Cell Aware. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please share this video out. Last words real quick, Kiosha, and then Visha, last words. Go ahead, Kiosha.
Okay, everyone. I just want to say donate blood. Donate blood. Whatever you do, donate blood.
All right.
You can reach me on Facebook at Shanavia's Dream Sickle Cell Clinic. You can reach me at email at shanaviasdream@gmail.com. That's Facebook, Shanavia's Dream Sickle Cell Clinic.
Awesome. All right. Visha, tell us what about last words from you?
I see, I've trained Kiosha well, right? I was going to we've been around each other too long. Let me say it like that. But that was one of the things that I was going to say. Educate. We all use Google, right? Let's use it for some things that we can absolutely make useful. Let's do that. And then also let's think about those who are living daily with this disease. And my hashtag for 2024 has been make sickle cell popular. Like we want to know a lot about it, create that education, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware and they know, but also like Kiosha said, donate blood. We have the power to save our own communities, and that's a topic for our next discussion, but that is such a huge one. Dre is actually getting a blood transfusion as we speak. And so, these are the things that keep our warriors
And
thriving.
I am a sickle cell fighter. Yes.
Sickle cell fighters, absolutely. So we want to educate.
What is it? What was that again?
Sickle cell fighters.
Sickle cell fighters. I love that. I love that. I love that.
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
you all go ahead. There was that it? I want to make sure.
Yes,
was that
that was it. That was it.
All right, listen, you all stay on. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much. Share this video. Share. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, remember to light it up. Thank you.